Hi,
Hey, Nicholas, how are you?
not bad, not bad. How are you yourself, my friend?
Doing well. It's a pleasure to speak with you in person. I know Andy couldn't be here today, but I'm looking forward to talking markets with you.
Yeah, I've been using the platform and I think a lot of the tools there are really good. It helps a lot of with insights.
Thanks, my friend. Yeah, it's shout out to the Santiment developers. They put together a pretty cool platform that makes it easy for me to do my job, and I know that our community is getting a lot of value out of it.
Yes, yeah, I really enjoy it. I watch some of your videos too. It's really entertaining and really insightful.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the kind words and looking forward to talking markets with you today.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, congratulations on your wedding and your move to Wisconsin.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been a couple months here of big moves and steps in my life. So I appreciate the kind words.
All right. I hope you got everything good.
Thank you. And you're in Malaysia, just like
Yeah,
Andy,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Malaysia.
Cool.
Yeah.
You guys live pretty close by?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's all in the city area.
Yeah, that's awesome. And have you lived there your whole life?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Whole life. I was in Australia for about 10 years, then
Okay.
back to Malaysia again.
Gotcha.
Right.
Couldn't stay away.
Yeah, home is always home.
Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah,
So what kind of things would you like to go over today for our call?
yeah. Bitcoin hit all-time high again and fell again. It's like a roller coaster of great and panic. So
Yeah,
what
it
the
never
on-chain data
never
telling us?
ends.
Yeah, yeah. What are the on-chain data telling us?
Yeah, so I can do a little bit of screen sharing.
Yeah,
We're live now, right? So we can kind of just go through things in real time together. And if you have certain parts of the platform or certain parts of the market that you're paying attention to, we can stop on a certain subject and talk about it.
sure.
Perfect. So I'll share my screen here.
All right.
So I always like to start off by taking a look at what's been going on with Bitcoin. Um, Especially on the utility side. You know, we look for rising utility over time. You can see how it kind of peaked here about 2 weeks ago, and it's actually been falling a little bit in terms of transaction volume. And we can see something kind of similar with active addresses here. This is the amount of unique addresses interacting on the Bitcoin network, unique coins interacting on the Bitcoin network. You can see that same peak in early June, and then network growth had peaked in late May and has been falling ever since. So yeah, there is some justification that this price drop may continue a little bit longer because there's just not a lot of demand or as much rising utility as we saw in the beginning parts of the year.
Does
And
this
then,
happen just in the past few weeks?
yeah, 2 to 3 weeks ago is when we kind of saw, you know, the big peak in stuff like network growth here. So you can see, you know, we got a big spike on May 29th, 556,000 new addresses were created. And ever since, it's more like 300 to 400,000. It even has been getting below 275,000 over the last uh, 3 to 5 days or so here. So it is starting to drop off. And it does seem like this is mostly due to retail impatience and boredom and just a lack of excitement because prices have kind of been so flat as of late.
Yeah, retail does that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you've
Oh,
probably heard on some of my other videos, you know, we really have done a lot of back tests to prove that markets move the opposite direction of the crowd's expectations. So when the crowd gets impatient and bored, that's when we often see bottoms because retail is exiting and not creating as many new addresses. And when, you know, network growth is rising, that's usually a sign that they're starting to get a lot of FOMO. So right
yeah.
now, you know, prices are at least staying flat relatively, while network growth is shrinking a lot over the last 3 weeks or so. So we consider this a little bit of a bullish divergence.
Oh, it's interesting to see a spike when the price starts falling. Yeah.
Yeah, this could be attributed to so many different things, though, where it's really not quite clear what happened in late May. Could have been just a whole lot of small wallets being created to consolidate a large wallet. Could have been like a big Telegram group that taught everyone how to open up Bitcoin addresses. There's so many different things that could have caused this, but for whatever reason, it happened. We saw a slight bounce in early June, and then it started to decline after that.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then we have MVRV. So this shows that the average returns of wallets that have been active in the past 30 days is sitting at about negative 1.8%. So there is slightly less risk in buying or adding onto your position right now because the average traders that you're competing with are underwater right now. But on the long-term end, this teal line represents average wallets over the last 365 days. They're still up pretty high at about plus 15%. So ideally, we'd like to see both of these be below 0% if you're looking for a much less risky buy opportunity compared to the entire history of Bitcoin.
This MVRV 365, it's also telling us that long-term holders are in the profit. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So when we saw the all-time high about a month ago, you can see the long-term and the short-term were both very high above 0% here. And that's indicative of tops forming because all different kinds of traders from different time periods are profitable in what's supposed to be a zero-sum game. So there has to be some evening out period, which allows, the zero-sum game to get back down to zero, which it eventually did.
Yep. So what are the whales doing though?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I was looking at the tier of 10 to 10,000 BTC because they often have a very heavy impact on where prices are going to go next. And they peaked here on June 3rd, a couple of weeks ago, and they've actually been dropping about just under 30,000 Bitcoin ever since. But they're at least starting to rise again over the last 10 days, adding about 13,000. So it's kind of like a little bit concerning on the midterm, but the short term is showing a pretty nice sign of accumulation right now.
Brian, how do you get the data when you drag your cursor?
Are you talking about the time frame or?
When you drag your cursor, you on the
so like this.
Yes, on the box you get to see like how many Bitcoin is being moved.
So yeah, you can do it. You can basically just hold down Shift while dragging.
Oh.
And this will tell me as I scroll, how much has changed during the time period that I'm highlighting. So that's a really good question. Something I'm doing every day, but not everyone knows. This is a very helpful way of analyzing the charts to gather, percentage changes, price changes, how many Bitcoin were accumulated or dumped. And it works for any chart on Sandbase.
Yeah. I saw on your Pulse chain, I think. Pulse Insight.
Yeah.
There was I think 2 weeks ago, there was 33,000 BTC bought by the retails. So that was a very amazing data to know.
Yeah, exactly. You can really find a lot of great gems on the social end of things, which we'll get to in a second.
Yep.
But I also wanted to show this big supply and exchanges drop that happened at the beginning of the month. So between June 2nd and June 9th, we had about, it looks like about 0.88% of the entire supply of Bitcoin moving off exchanges. And then over the past 10 days, we've seen about 0.15% of it move back. But you can still see just how much things have dropped over time. between March 20th and June 19th, where we are now. So it's a good long-term sign that Bitcoin is continuing to move away from exchanges, meaning that the risk of future sell-offs are staying pretty mitigated.
It means that the supplies from the exchange is exchanging hand with the retailers and the whales, isn't it?
Well, it means that the amount of available Bitcoin on exchanges is getting lower due to both whales and retail moving their coins into their cold storage or wallets that are away from traditional exchanges. Meaning they don't have any, the lower this goes, the less inclination they have to sell their coins. That's the running theory that we've seen. And it usually has some truth to it. Prices tend to move up quicker when supply and exchanges is going away, and they tend to drop more, as we saw right here from June 9th to June 15th. The price will actually drop because coins are moving on to exchanges.
Oh, interesting. I always thought that the retailers and the whales are buying.
Well, they're buying and selling from each other all the time. But yeah, I can see how you could see that as a sign that the exchanges themselves are getting lighter in terms of their Bitcoin because retail and whales are buying from them. Usually, if we want to look at how exchanges are doing, we can look at like wallets holding, let's just say 100,000 Bitcoin or more, which there aren't that many at all. And they're moving down over time. That's what this red line is showing. Get rid of this line here.
Yep.
But yeah, they were holding about 680,000 Bitcoin in total back in late April, and 2 months later, they've dropped about a little over 45,000 Bitcoin, which is quite a bit. So yeah, I mean, 100,000 or more Bitcoin, that's almost always going to be like liquidity providers, maybe Satoshi Nakamoto himself out there somewhere, stuff like that. But there aren't that many wallets that have that many 100,000 or more Bitcoin. You could even just look at like 10,000 or more to get a bigger sample size, and that's still going to be mostly exchanges, and they're moving down too. So clearly, they were holding 2.95 million 3 months ago. Now they're almost 100,000 Bitcoin less. It's a sign that less and less coins are being held on exchanges, just like this chart here confirms.
Right.
Yeah. So what else are you interested in and following in the markets right now?
I usually follow the Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and Solana.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe we can do a quick look at Ethereum now and see what's going on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Ethereum's on-chain metrics look very similar. Kind of a peak in early to mid-June, followed by a big drop here, but pretty much normal. These are just the normal cycles of, the week versus the weekend. Network growth has been going up over time. I had looked at, let's see if I can, I still have this one up I was looking at it earlier. Put out this post where we saw that compared to a year ago, when there was maybe anywhere between 560,000 to 670,000 new Ethereum wallets created every week. Now it's more like 800,000 to 1 million per week. So Ethereum's ecosystem is looking more solid than ever, in my opinion, in terms of just new wallets being created on a daily and a weekly basis.
Wow. That was a bit unexpected because I thought Ethereum was dying down.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. When you start to see it get flat like this in terms of price, it may make you think that the rally is over. But from a mid or long-term perspective, this is the kind of stuff that can really confirm that the future is still looking bright.
Yeah, it's true.
And there's some other stories I updated recently. This is a direct comparison of wallets holding at least 10 Bitcoin, just the amount of wallets holding 10 Bitcoin versus the amount of wallets that hold 0.001 up to 10 Bitcoin. And you can see retail here in blue is starting to move down, while the 10 plus BTC wallets here in pink are moving up. And that's a very good combination that usually signals that we are going to move the right direction given enough time.
This Bitcoin, yeah.
Yeah, this is Bitcoin.
Yeah. That's the whales and the retailers.
Exactly. Whales versus retails. And then we also saw yesterday, Jerome Powell decided to leave interest rates the same. So Donald Trump, of course, came out and said he doesn't like it and calls him too late Powell and all this stuff because he wants Jerome Powell to cut rates that would allow the stock market and the economy from especially from the wealthy people's perspective, they would really benefit. Anyone who's investing a lot of money in the stock market, they'd benefit from rates being cut. But Powell is refusing to do so. And a lot of people, as we saw, have been talking about it across crypto platforms.
Yeah.
So it's a very sensitive subject, just like the Israel and Iran subject is here. And you can see how much Israel is being mentioned and Iran is being mentioned here in red. Clearly, the conflict has been having an impact on crypto markets, and you can see how much social volume exploded as we started to hear about the conflict between the two countries.
Yeah, it impacted Bitcoin price by a little bit, yeah.
Yep. And we've seen this story before, Israel and Palestine last October, and even going back to February of 2022, when the Russia and Ukraine conflict started heating up, we saw kind of a week or two of a pullback. And then after the fear of it wore off, prices began to rise again. So not going to say that's definitely happening this time, but so far it's following the same downward pattern after the news happens as the previous two conflicts.
Yeah. Oh, Genius Act just came in, yeah?
That's true. Yeah, I can pull up the social trends for the Genius Act. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, so we definitely first heard about it here in mid-May, and that's when there was a ton of discussion, but the big announcement happened on June 17th, a couple days ago, and this led to a huge social volume spike, but didn't really affect markets all too much from what I see.
Yeah. But how's the supply for stable coins though? Because USDT is not something that US citizens are really using, isn't it? With the
That's
Genius
true.
Act, USDT is going to go down even more.
Yeah, if we take a look at Tether, so I know that their market cap is actually doing really well. So you can see from this red line how much it's been growing just over the past 2 months, going back to April 19th. The market cap of Tether has grown by almost 8%, or about $11.3 billion.
Wow, that's surprising.
Yeah. And then the supply on exchanges has been going way down. So there's less and less dry powder going on exchanges compared to where we were a few months back.
Mm-hmm.
I also wanted to show you the ETF inflow and outflows.
Yeah.
So we now have 7 days in a row of big inflow days. Definitely well over close to $2 billion of inflows net over the past 7 trading days. Thursday, my Thursday is still today, but your Friday where you are.
Yeah.
Thursday was a holiday in the US, but it'll be open tomorrow. So it'll be interesting to see if the week can close with an 8th straight inflow day for Bitcoin.
That's major, yeah.
Yeah. This is really good news because usually when we see a lot of inflows, like we saw back in mid-May, that can lead to price rises. And eventually we had the all-time high here in the midst of all of these inflows.
So the ETFs inflows will be able to kind of tell us that there might be another push.
Exactly. Yeah, it means that institutional money is definitely still moving in, and people are investing in Bitcoin's price through ETF exposure rather than through on-chain so much. But it's still a positive sign that a lot of whales in the overall investing space are believers in Bitcoin and want to invest in it and get exposure to it.
I think that's great news for the community.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great sign. And then one other chart that I had prepared was the mentions of small versus large prices. So this is interesting. We have mentions anywhere between, 26,000 up to 69,000 versus 116,000 all the way to like 159,000 or so. And generally when the blue is really high, it means that people are predicting more bearish prices. When the red's really high, it means they're predicting more bullish prices. And generally, we see tops form more when the reds are outpacing the blue, and bottoms form more when the blues are outpacing the red, as markets move the opposite direction of the crowd's expectations.
So it's kind of following that trend.
Yeah, a little bit. We're definitely seeing more blue right now, which I do like to see. It means there is some fear in the markets. And it kind of confirms what we saw with, retail. The amount of retail Bitcoin wallets are getting smaller, while the amount of whale wallets are getting larger.
Oh, yeah. Whales are accumulating at times like this when panic are high.
Exactly. When retail is selling, the people they're selling to are those institutionals and the multi-millionaires out there who are stacking more and more coins whenever there's panic in the markets.
Sounds like what a whale would do.
Exactly, yeah.
So XRP is getting ETFs in Toronto. Is that
Right.
something that you can see on Santiment?
Well, we can look at the amount of hype behind it. We don't have the actual inflows and outflows yet, but we can definitely look up XRP and ETF or ETFs. We'll even include Toronto. Yeah, so you can see the big spike just about a day ago. Suddenly everyone was talking about the XRP ETFs here, and we can switch the prices here to XRP. Yeah, so I don't see that it's necessarily affected prices too much yet. If anything, this was a big FOMO spike when people were talking about it a lot. And we started to see XRP going up a lot to 233. Suddenly a lot of XRP ETF talk, and then the price crashed. If you remember about a year and a half ago when Bitcoin ETFs first came out, the first 2 weeks after they were released, markets were really dropping a lot, and it was causing a lot of panic. And it's because retail was trying to buy a lot from the whales, and that was pushing down prices. We'd rather have retail fearing these kinds of events because that would lead to whales accumulating and pushing up prices.
That's true.
So yeah, you can see, especially on Telegram and Twitter, huge spikes right there, right as the announcement was happening.
We are getting more ETFs.
Yeah, it's never a bad sign when we're getting more ETFs, allowing more people outside of crypto and on chain to be able to get exposure to these prices because they still believe in, the future of crypto, and maybe they just are hesitant to hold the real coins. So this gives them options, not just for Bitcoin and Ethereum, but now we have a legitimate XRP ETF that people can use. I know that there's been one for a few months that's more of like a leveraged ETF. It doesn't really qualify as a pure ETF, but there are options to get exposure to XRP in a few ways now without actually owning XRP on chain.
Right.
But yeah, that's just a little bit I wanted to share about, the markets right now. Where do you guys seeing in terms of crypto's summer here? Do you think that everything will kind of push toward another all-time high, or are you a little reluctant right now?
I think that for someone like me, that I'm always looking at the market. I think I pretty much follow the whales. So when I see the whales start taking a dive, then I'll start to take profits. When they pick it up and I see retails are dumping, I'll start picking it up.
Yeah, I totally understand that. That's a great way to go. Following where the smart money is moving their money and avoiding going into the crowd traps of what everyone else believes.
Yeah, but in Asia, there's a lot of buzz around crypto. Thailand, Singapore, China, they all have their own advancement in terms of either education or policy change. Even Malaysia has an innovation hub, I think a few days ago. So the Prime Minister and the central bank is working together to create Malaysian-backed stablecoin. So there was talk to do that. So I think the Genius Act really play a role in that. So once the Genius Act went live, the whole world start to adopt this type of innovation. So we can see that there are some buzz going on, especially in the Asia side.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting. I mean, getting more and more people involved in crypto, especially in Asian countries where things have been a little more restrictive for much of the last 10 years, really. I remember back in 2017, China temporarily banned crypto. There's been all sorts of things that's made it hard for East Asia to get involved. So this should open some doors.
Yeah. So you can see that a lot of innovations happening now. I think that's really great for crypto.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
I definitely agree. I think we have an exciting summer coming up, and I'm looking forward to talking more about markets with you and Andy and seeing if we can push toward another all-time high.
Yeah,
because we're still very close, only 6% away from the all-time high. It feels like things have gotten a little boring, but with a little bit of patience, good things tend to happen.
Yeah, I think at the same time, whales are collecting. I think that's a good sign.
I would agree.
Yep. So I guess we hit our 30 minutes mark. So thank you so much, Brian, for explaining all this data to us.
Yeah, thank you, Nicholas. It's always a pleasure, and I love talking with you and the team.
Yeah, I love listening to your insights too.
It means a lot that we have your viewership, and I strive to put the best content out there every time I come on. So I'll be talking more about the markets tomorrow. I think the founder usually is with me, but he may not be available tomorrow. But I always do a live stream. So if you or any of your community wants to watch. It's at 2 p.m. UTC tomorrow.
2 p.m. All right.
Mm-hmm.
All right then.
All
Thank
right,
you
Nicholas.
So much, Brian.
Thank you. You have a great day.
You too.
And take care for everyone who's watching.
All right. See you, Brian. See you next month.
Bye-bye. You betcha.